Combat, a Persona fan's worst nightmare. For how much emphasis there is on the dungeon crawling portions of these games, you'd be hard pressed to find many people who care all too much about the combat of the Persona series. Fans of the gameplay do exist, but for a lot of people, Persona is a story game first and foremost. This is a shame because the Persona 4 cast is actually a lot of fun to play with in-game. All of them specialize in areas, and building a good team requires synergy and understanding of the game's systems. While it's true that Persona 4 is a game about teamwork, to say that everyone pulls their weight equally isn't exactly true. I get the feeling that some people are lacking a bit with what they bring to the team. I don't know, some of you guys seem like slackers to me. So you know what? As your resident Persona 4 player, it's my duty to put these guys under scrutiny. So for today, I'm gonna be asking the question that's on everyone's mind. Who is the best party member in Persona 4? First, let's lay down the rules. Much like with my Persona 3 ranking, I want to look at these party members as individuals and what they bring to the table. While party composition and equipment matters, ultimately, it's not what defines these characters. I'd feel weird to say one character is super good as long as you pair them with someone who pulls most of the weight. Nah, I want to know how well each character works on their own and what they can offer to other party members. For the sake of transparency, I won't be including characters like Narukami and Rise on this list because they're so fundamentally different from everyone else. The protagonist is just better than everyone, and Rise doesn't even interact with the enemies. They're easily the top two characters in the game because of how different they are, so including them on this list would be a bit redundant. We all know Rise's broken, it's not a secret. I'm gonna be using Golden for this video because everyone got buffed in this version and no one cares about the PS2 P4 other than me. Also, I played the game on hard mode, so some mileage is going to vary by default.
Let's go, partner!
Sometimes, all we need in life is the support of our loving partner. At least that's what Yosuke probably thinks, which is why he tries to have your back. Unfortunately for Yosuke though, what he brings to the table isn't exactly amazing. Don't get me wrong, he's not horrible, but he does get outclassed by basically every other party member. A lot of this is due to his overall lack of focus. By looking at his stats and skill selection, Yosuke is meant to be a mixed attacker that specializes in wind skills, though some issues immediately crop up. Despite Yosuke's highest stat being his strength stat, he only learns a total of 4 physical moves, those being Slash, Sonic Punch, Power Slash, and Brave Blade. While the last of those is a good skill, the problem is that Yosuke learns these skills disproportionately, only unlocking Brave Blade near the end of the game. That high strength stat will most likely be ignored by most players because his wind damage is overall the better option between the two. Yosuke can output some good damage with Wind Boost and Wind Amp, but since he lacks a natural charge skill of any kind, his output ends up feeling lackluster compared to most of the cast. So, if both of Yosuke's attack types are overshadowed, what sets Yosuke apart from everyone else? Well, that would be his support skills, and for early game, Yosuke gets a rather wide variety to choose from. If you do his social link and go on a few bike rides, he'll get access to stuff like Dekaja, Chifuri, and Panic Boost. These are really good skills to have during the early portions of the game, when the player's options are more limited. But the thing is, Yosuke's options don't really expand all that much throughout the game, forced to be stuck at okay territory for far too long for his own good. Yosuke's best skill is probably Youthful Wind since it covers 2 bases. Meteorama with an agility buff for only 25 SP. Shame that it's not a full heal, but this skill having 2 purposes is rather nice. If you want, you can give Yosuke something like the Blessed Hands to help with healing, but at the point in the game where you actually unlock the skill, you already have 2 healers, and Tsukukaja isn't the best buff in my opinion. Yosuke isn't particularly special, he gets outclassed in basically every regard, but at the same time though, his general coverage does allow him to be easily slotted into different party compositions. It's a case where Yosuke himself might not be all that good, but I still manage to get value out of him in certain dungeons because of his natural wind affinity. Whenever I build a party for a dungeon, Yosuke sometimes sneaks his way in there because his wind coverage just so happens to align with enemy weaknesses. When your main draw is being able to fill in a 4th slot, I think it just screams loud and clear that this character is lacking a concrete strength of their own. Yosuke can be a decent party member with the right skill selection, equipment, and most importantly, team composition. He relies too much on external supplements to pick up the slack, which is why he, unfortunately, stays on the sideline more often than not.
All hyped up and ready to go!
If Yosuke's problem was that he didn't have a niche of his own, Chie is what happens when you place too much emphasis on a specific aspect of a character. Much like your favorite YouTubers, Chie only has one shtick and will ride that train until her dying breath. For all intents and purposes, Chie is a physical fighter. When it comes to laying down the smackdown, Chie's damage output is really solid for most of the game. She's a great pick for a majority of bosses, and her access to multi-target physical skills and apt pupil makes her a good pick for exploration too. And since her highest stats are strength and agility, Chie can make short work of whatever random mob comes in your way. However, Chie's strength ultimately ends up being her greatest weakness. Because of her sole focus on physical attacks, Chie ends up lacking in a lot of important areas. Early on, she does get skills like Terukaja and Bufu, which, in theory, should help diversify her portfolio a bit. In a loose sense it does, but the rest of Chie's learn set focuses so much on physical damage that these lesser skills end up being just that, lesser. Now, why is this a problem? If Chie can sweep the game with Power Charge and her strongest attacks, why would she need these other skills? In theory, yeah, she can hit hard, but in practice, that strategy is severely lacking. I hold the opinion that physical skills in Persona 4 are vastly overrated for the most part. Sure, in a lot of fights they can be useful, outright better than magic, but if you take the time to fully analyze this stuff, you'll find that physical ends up falling short of its true potential. This is because most bosses in the latter portion of the game have hidden physical resistances. Hell, the Marie fight just outright repels physical attacks. You should be falling back to supplemental skills in situations like these, but Chie doesn't offer anything good in that area. If you do her social link and get her bike skills, her magic output does get a bit better, but it's still not an amazing improvement. With no amp skill to speak of, you're gonna have to rely on accessories to pick up the slack, but by doing so, you're potentially trading away something much better. If you want my opinion, don't even bother with the ice skills outside of Bufula so you can exploit weaknesses if it really comes down to it. The obvious counter-argument that I'm gonna get to this is that Chie has access to a support skill in the form of Dragon Hustle. It's a lot like Luster Candy from the mainline S&T series. A party-wide buff that increases every attribute for 3 turns. Sounds like an awesome skill, and the first time you use it, it is. But the problem with Dragon Hustle is that, while it is a good and useful skill, it was given to the wrong character. Chie has a pitiful SP pool, so frequent use of this mega expensive skill is out of the question. You'd be lucky to even get 2 Dragon Hustles out before running out of SP, and that's not even considering that Chie still has to use resources to charge up her attacks. Because of this, you should 100% use the Chakra Ring if you plan on building Chie around this skill. But then, downside number 2 rears its head. Since the skill is locked behind her 3rd tier persona, Chie is left without any meaningful support options or alternate strategies for over 90% of the game. By the time you unlock this skill, there's only a handful of challenges left. And for a skill so expensive, I'd rather not lose out on the benefits because the enemy happens to have Dekaja or something. Chie does have moments where she shines. Her AoE physical skills can be potent, especially with At Pupil, but being a one-trick pony can only get you so far, and the amount of effort that it takes to invest in her alternate strategies makes Chie a lopsided character. She's great in one field, but that's all she has going for her.
Just say the word and it's bear time!
To a lot of people, Teddy is an ice-flavored Yukiko. To others, he's a support character with some offensive abilities to cover all grounds, and to a third group, Teddy just sucks. The fact that we can have wildly different opinions on Teddy as a party member is a bit fitting considering fan reactions to this character, but I also think it's emblematic of Teddy's playstyle on the whole. Teddy has a lot to work with. He's a spellcaster with an emphasis on ice skills, but he also learns party-wide healing, buffs, debuffs, and ailment curing skills. And even one or two physical attacks, believe it or not. This makes Teddy rather stacked when it comes to versatility, though unlike, let's say, the Persona 3 cast, it's up to the player to dictate where Teddy will specialize in. You can either build him to be more offensive or more supportive, and while that level of freedom is nice to have, you're forced to give up a few things just to see that vision through to the end. His learn order is also a bit strange compared to other party members. He starts off with Meteorama, right? But then he doesn't get Meteorahan until level 70. That's about 5 levels after Yukiko, and unlike her, Teddy doesn't get Divine Grace without the Blessed Hands. On the bright side though, Teddy gets 2 buffs in Ma Rakukaja and Ma Terukaja. He can even get a debuff from his social link. Teddy is a character that can be pretty good when you reach the end of the game, but the process of collecting all the necessary skills takes a lot of forethought and planning. It's kind of easy to brick Teddy's build if you don't know what exactly you're going for. What I ended up doing with the character is building him closer to a support unit that can deal damage on off turns. That way I can take advantage of skills like Ice Amp while still keeping the buff skills. What's holding Teddy back from reaching his true potential is the lack of a charge skill. He gets outdamaged by the more dedicated offensive characters, so it's more worthwhile to build him towards that supportive playstyle. Some of the skills you do decide to give Teddy will depend on the type of characters that you bring along with you into that dungeon. However, unlike a character like Yosuke, Teddy does have enough to carry his own weight. Shoutouts to Kamui Miracle, a skill that I don't think a single person uses unironically. How many times have you sat there and thought, man, this might be a good time to bring out the roulette wheel? The answer is none, don't lie to me.
Yo, mind if I kick a little ass here?
Here he is, the legend. Kanji Tatsumi is a better Chie. Not only does he cover the same general role that she does, he does so in a way that allows him to be viable in multiple scenarios. He's got the highest strength stat at a whopping 95 and has the skill set to back up that power. While all of his natural physical attacks are single target, they hit hard and can be powered up even further by doing his social link. In the original game, Kanji had a distinct nerf, as he never learned Power Charge. Because of this, Kanji was given some powerful skills to make up for that, like Primal Force, the best single-target physical skill in the game. Golden ended up refining Kanji by letting him get Power Charge through his social link, and even Atom Smasher through his bike skills, though it's pretty clear that Kanji's true strength is in those single-target skills. If you want coverage from multiple enemies, then his electric skills are more than enough. Don't be fooled by Kanji's low magic stat, since his Zeodynes can still deal pretty decent damage with the right setup. His ultimate weapon increases his electric damage, and his natural access to boost and amp skills can help make up for those shortcomings for the most part. Though Kanji getting electric amp as his final skill is a bit of a drag. Until that point, his magic damage is noticeably on the lower side, and his lack of SP can be a sore spot. Thankfully, this doesn't matter all too much for bosses, since you're mostly going to be using it on power charging and Ma Terukaja buffs. Maybe you'll use the Zeo skills when fighting Shadow Naoto, but those skills are more so supplemental. What's really holding Kanji back, much like Chie, is his reliance on physical. Thanks to his overwhelming strength stat and access to Primal Force, you can still feel the power behind his attacks. But again, his potential is nerfed by those sneaky resist physical modifiers. I think it's funny that Kanji might just be one of the worst characters to bring to the final boss, because not only is physical damage resisted, but his magic is absorbed too. Unlucky. Kanji's third tier Persona skill is kind of cheeks too. It's like Jack Bros from Persona 3, but because you get it at the very end of the game, it's not really useful. You're better off using the skill slot for like Regenerate 3 or something. Despite those little issues though, Kanji is a solid party member and should be your go-to for most bosses. His high endurance stat makes him a tank, and his kit allows him to punch with the force of 1 too. If there's a beefy shadow standing in your path, you can always count on Kanji to have your back.
I'm ready to go. Just say the word.
I think Naoto might very well be the most underrated party member in Persona 4, at least in terms of combat. For some strange reason, people tend to mostly focus on her performance during boss battles, which yeah, isn't as good as some of the other characters, but she more than makes up for it by being the single best character for random encounters. In Persona 4 Golden, it's possible for Naoto to have coverage for every single element in the game. If there's a weakness, Naoto can exploit it. But what makes Naoto so deadly for these fights is, funnily enough, her instant kill spells. Hama and Mudo tend to go underutilized by most players because instant kill magic is generally seen as bad, mostly because it'll miss more often than not. Naoto manages to avoid this issue because she naturally learns both Hama boost and Mudo boost early on in her skill set. This alone makes her really fucking good. There aren't that many enemies in Persona 4 that nullify both light and dark, so if they block one, chances are they're susceptible to the other. And since Naoto is tied with Yosuke as the second fastest character in the game, she'll be able to get some sneaky pot shots in during neutral encounters, if not outright destroying them entirely. Something that I really like about Naoto is that she has a flexible kit. However, much like Teddy, it's impossible to get the most out of her without making some sacrifices. Go in too far with the instant kill magic and suddenly you only have 4 slots to work with. Obviously it's up to the player to make the most out of her, but the amount of effort that it takes to build a really good Naoto is a bit disproportionate compared to the other party members. If you want to get some of Naoto's best stuff, then you need to farm gems for a certain weapon. You need to go on those bike rides. You need to accept that Naoto is a bit squishy, sporting the lowest endurance stat in the game. But if you're willing to put in the effort to get some good equipment and skills, Naoto is a force to be reckoned with. Let's address the elephant in the room, boss fights. Naoto lacks elemental booster skills on her own, so most of her damage isn't amazing in that field. Most people fall back to the good old Mind Charge Megadolion strategy. While this works for something like Gold Shadows, it's not the right approach for bosses. If you want to use Naoto in these situations, then you should give her the Frost Shot, an Ice Vow item, and Bufudyne. Maybe throw in an Angelic Grace from bike rides to take advantage of that agility stat. With the right equipment, her elemental damage comes within spitting distance of Teddy's, but with Mind Charge on top of that, it's not even close. Where Naoto falters a bit is in her supportive abilities. While Golden undoubtedly rounded the character out, this is an area that she's still lacking a bit in. She gets access to Heat Riser, which I personally don't find to be an amazing skill compared to party-wide buffs, and she gets Shield of Justice, the most insane skill in the game. With this, Naoto can erect a barrier that nullifies damage. All of it, including Almighty. It takes a lot of MP. It's the most expensive skill in the game, but Naoto surprisingly has the resources to pull it off occasionally. When using Naoto for bosses, you have to decide whether or not you want to be on the full offense or a wall that can occasionally attack with less than stellar results. Persona 4 Golden is already a pretty easy game, so more often than not, I use Naoto as an attacker for bosses, only busting out Shield of Justice if I have the items to spare. I don't know what people are smoking when they say Naoto's a mediocre party member. She's damn near the best one in the game. Solid movesets, even stats, great resource management if you don't spam Shield of Justice all the time, and her flexibility when it comes to building offers a lot of different approach options. How do you get better than that? Well, surprisingly, by making something simple but effective.
Fall with the petals.
You know, on the outside looking in, Yukiko Amagi shouldn't be anything special. As the dedicated fire mage of the group, she boasts the highest magic stat in SP in the game. She can dish out plenty of damage, but can also fall back on healing in case of emergencies. Between her and Teddy, Yukiko focuses more so on the healing and status ailment part of support, rather than buffs and debuffs. She gets early access to Divine Grace through her social link, which makes her healing magic just outright better than Teddy's for a good chunk of the game. Hell, by the end of the game, Yukiko's salvation skill gives her an insane advantage over most characters. It allows her to tackle 2 birds with 1 stone, by healing and curing at the same time. Everyone else, aside from Yosuke, is stuck with using separate skills to cover all bases. Looks like someone's the staff favorite. Because you don't need to use up a slot on Amrita, Yukiko has a bit more flexibility with her build than most. This is where some of her bonus skills come in to save the day. While it is possible for her to learn Matarunda through bike rides, it's not what most people will invest their time for. If you're gonna get any of the extra abilities, then you're going to get Yukiko's Mind Charge. There was a reason why Kanji and Yukiko didn't get charge skills in the original Persona 4. Yukiko with Mind Charge is a fucking menace. She can punch well above her weight thanks to this, and with her Fire Boost and Amp skills, she can actually rival the protagonist through sheer damage output. Burning Petals is probably the best third tier Persona skill in the game. It's at the very least the most consistently useful one. Imagine if Surf's Ragnarok can hit all enemies and there you go, you have Burning Petals. With the right equipment, you can rather easily max out her magic stat. Throw in a Fire Vow on top of that, and you've got a walking nuke at your disposal. What makes Yukiko so good is that she can fit into basically any party composition and fulfill whatever role you want. DPS? Check. Healing? You got it. Support skills? Well, you're gonna have to do a bike ride or two, but yeah, she can handle that as well. If she can't attack because the enemy nulls fire, just use Fire Break. You'll have extra room for it. Or how about Mudo skills for some extra coverage? Is there seriously anything Yukiko can't do? Well, sort of. Her physical attacks are just the worst ones in the game. She only has her fan without any option for physical skills, and her endurance is pretty middling. But when you're this fucking solid everywhere else, with one of the best learn sets in the game, I think we can forgive those slight shortcomings. I'm calling it now. If Persona 4 ever gets a remake, Yukiko is going to get nerfed to the ground, and even then, she'll still probably be better than Yosuke. So that's the list. Like I said at the start of the video, every party member is useful to some degree. I struggle to find any outright bad characters in Persona 4, mostly because they all offer at least something to the player at points. Like, Yosuke is kinda mid, but there are actually points where his kit does come in handy. There's also the fact that, while a character might be good on paper, it's ultimately up to Persona 4's design to take advantage of it. That soft physical resist on bosses certainly throws a wrench in a few things, and it's one of the changes I would like to see if the game ever got a remake. Even though I judge these party members mostly on their own merits, every character is viable to a degree. It's all the matter of giving them a proper home and bringing them out during the right time. The fun part about RPGs is seeing how other people tackle problems that you yourself faced. Maybe they'll bring along a character I don't find to be all that good and make them work within their team composition. That stuff is really cool, and Alice has always been some of the best at it. So, what do you guys think? What party members would you bring along with you in the TV world? Is there someone you think I underrated? Let me know down below.